ready? Tell us when. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Ipswich. Thank you all for being here. And welcome to the launch of our new Development, Education and Community programme, Yes We Can, supported very kindly by Arts Council England. Thank you all very much for coming. It's great to be outside London, doing something in a part of the country where there's moves for some regeneration of arts and culture, which is fantastic. Just to give you a bit of background, my name's Sybil Bell. I'm the founder of Independent Venue Week and of Yes We Can. It's the 9th consecutive Independent Venue Week coming up in January, February 2023. And it's because of the last 9 years of running Independent Venue Week with the amazing team that we have, that we've met so many fantastic people around the country doing work in local communities with various different groups of people, many of them doing that activity in grassroots music venues. And it just felt like such a great opportunity to take what was happening in small pockets of the country and see if we could provide a national platform to encourage more venues around the country to start opening their doors during the day and being part of something that allowed them to bring different community groups into their venues, opening them up as cultural hubs and helping to sustain themselves alongside live music. Yes We Can is the name of that platform. We're very excited to launch it finally. And we are looking to work in 6 different areas across the board. That will be anything from early years, so parents and toddlers, young people with a new education programme that we're launching called Yes We Can Be, mental health and well-being, people in the LGBTQ plus community, as well as the deaf, disabled and neurodivergent community. So opening up the venues to bring very often marginalised groups up into the venues during the day, demystifying what these venues are about. And if you can get people in during the day to different activities, we hope that people will start to see artwork on the walls about gigs that they'd be interested in coming to and start coming to the venues in the evening as well. It's been a long time in the planning, this project, and we've been doing pockets of activity around the country over the last few years. But I think it's particularly heartwarming for us to be able to launch something on this scale with thanks to Arts Council England, who I think have also recognised that, especially after the last 2 years, the opportunity for people to get back together in person, away from screens and doing things digitally, learning new skills, mingling with like-minded people and creating new opportunities to unlock talent all around the country is a really important part of how we come out of the pandemic and how communities all around the country can sustain themselves and grow. I'm here with Adrian Cook from Arts Council England. Adrian's just going to perhaps share with you one of the reasons that you wanted to support this project. It's a big deal for us. It's a big project that we're funded to until the end of May. What are the reasons that Arts Council really wanted to get behind this?
Well, I think, there's a couple of things there, really. One of them is that, as you know, in the last sort of 2-3 years, grassroots music venues have been, they've had a much, clearer focus from our point of view than they have had before. And I think particularly I think it was 2.5 years ago, we launched a kind of a ring-fence part of our project grants funding scheme, which is our open funding programme, called Supporting Grassroots Live Music. And one of the reasons we did that was because we weren't really getting many applications from independent venues across the country. And there was no particular good reason for that. But we thought, well, if we have a particular fund that's just for them, a ring-fence fund, then maybe they'll apply. And they have done, and that's been really successful. And I think it's helped venues around the country, see themselves as, I suppose, cultural assets as much as anything else, which perhaps they weren't doing before. Perhaps they were seeing themselves as just small businesses. When we launched that fund, one of the things that we perhaps suggested that venues might look to do would be to maybe look at other ways that they can use their space, whether it's either sort of daytime things, anything that kind of might involve members of their community, to make themselves a community asset as well as a cultural asset. So I think that's one of the reasons we're really happy to support this project, because it overlaps really neatly with the kind of things we want to see happening anyway. So hopefully this will be, in many ways, perhaps a proof of concept, even of how venues can use their space to develop their own audience as well as place themselves, much more at the heart of their community.
I think that's exactly where we were coming from. And if you consider that venues all around the country, many of them don't open their doors until 4 o'clock, when a band will turn up to load in and sound check. And then obviously they turn themselves over to live music. But during the day, you've got spaces all around the country that many of them are not open during the day. And then you've got all these community groups that are looking for spaces to do things that might be geared up for music, or a bigger space where there's some technical infrastructure. So bringing the two things together seemed to make the most sense. We're going to speak to Joe Bailey in a minute at the Smokehouse, but certainly your role at Arts Council England is East of England. Yes. Are you seeing quite a bit of change since the Grassroots Live Music Fund and since the pandemic, about people opening up?
It's unfortunate the pandemic happened quite soon after we launched the fund. It wasn't even a year into the fund and the pandemic started. But even so, I think the fact that we were that engaged with those venues probably helped us support them through the pandemic. And fortunately, not too many have closed during this really difficult time for running a venue. But generally speaking, that we've supported an awful lot of venues across the country, and that's really great. And a lot of them are thriving, and we want to see that continue, really.
Okay, that's great. Thank you ever so much, Adrian. I'm going to ask Joe Bailey from the Smokehouse and At Lab Music to come and join us. Thanks, Adrian. Talk amongst yourself. It is great to be here in Ipswich. When we decided to launch Yes We Can, we wanted to make sure that we weren't in London. It's very important, much like Independent Venue Week. Yes We Can is a national project with a very local feel, and it's really important for us to be in parts of the country where activity is going to be happening. And Ipswich is one of those areas that started to see a little resurgence of arts and culture, so it's really important for us to be out in this part of the woods. You ready?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Just doing COVID stuff.
Okay, great.
Got a new grill, thank you. SC microphones for that.
Fantastic.
No plugs.
Joe, can you just tell us a little bit about the Smokehouse and Out Loud Music and how the two things link up, how long they've both been going?
Out Loud Music started in 2016, where we saw there was a need to engage young people through music in Ipswich. And the Smokehouse came about because of one of our projects called iRock, which is a special needs project. We just ran out of space and we didn't know what to do, where to go, and we didn't want it to go to a village hall or another space like that. And we thought, well, actually, there might be some space on the site that we're at. Had a long conversation with the landlords, and this used to be, we used to be a fish counter at one point, and it's been so many different things, but it was office space that he let us sort of knock around and basically prove the concept that, something else could happen in this space. So, with funding from the BIF Reward and also the local Labour councillors, we were able to raise enough money to turn this, what was a shell, into a live music venue. But that's not why we started it. We did it because we ran out of space. We wanted to run community programmes during the daytime, and the live music thing was an afterthought.
Right.
So we thought, okay, we can get it busy during the day with community programs, our own ones. I thought, let's get some Pilates and yoga teachers in here. That didn't really happen. Pilates did for a bit. But then the live music started to take off. So I think it was September 2016. We ran 1 or 2 gigs. We had 4 or 5 people here. But by the end of 2016, I remember a particular punk gig, 80 people here, great takings on the bars, and that was the real start, a real incubator for live music in the space. So we sort of started with the community first, and then went to live music.
80 people here is maximum capacity, right? The
It is, yeah,
it's
we're
not
tiny.
a big place.
We're tiny. You can't see it behind these cameras, but there's no space.
And it's interesting that it's come the other way round. Do you find much link between what you're doing with live music and the audiences and what happens here during the day with your community programme? And also, has it changed perceptions, do you think, for people in the area about what live music venues are all about?
I think addressing the second point, I think there is actually a new scene and community built around the venue. There wasn't a live music venue in Ipswich. There's pubs that do a mixture of food, original music, and cover bands and tributes, but there's nothing that really served a community that wasn't looked after. So we built a scene around that, and So for £50, anyone could book out the Smokehouse to put on their own event. So we're increasing or incubating these new promoters, encouraging bands to do it. We also put on our own gigs as well, bringing bigger bands into a smaller space through Independent Venue Week and many other sort of things that we do. But regarding the community side of things, we've seen that the programs that we run, I mean, there's some people from the New Gen project here. We've definitely had people from that project volunteer here and also gain employment from it as well. So it's all about creating an ecosystem of, during the daytime, there are projects and there's volunteer pathways and employment pathways from those projects into the Smokehouse and beyond as well, because we've had people now going off and recording #1 albums and all sorts of things from this very small space. It's great.
That's incredible. And I think that's the thing about people who want to work in the industry, who perhaps don't know anybody in the industry. Getting a foot in the door can be very difficult. It can seem there's a lot of opportunities out there if you're able to do an unpaid internship, which a lot of people can't do. And actually, if you want to get your foot in the door in the music industry, the easiest door to open is that of a venue. You walk in, you're going to see a sound engineer, you're going to see a band, there's going to be somebody with that band. And I think it's just a really great way to break down those barriers, come in and see if you can do some work on the door or help behind the bar and just ingratiate yourself into that sort of scene.
Yeah, I think traditionally, like, venues can be quite... I don't know, seem like you can't penetrate into those venues and they're quite a scary thing. So there's always a nice, happy, smiley face here and a team working behind it that wants to make sure that those opportunities, whether they are your first ever gig, coming off a project that runs from here or elsewhere, to being a part and valued as a part of the team, regardless of age and background. It's fantastic.
I think that's the thing with live music. There's no barriers there and no judgment, so anybody can walk through the door and feel welcome. Just in terms of what's been happening in this particular area, in Ipswich and Suffolk more widely, but certainly in Ipswich, there seems to be talk of new venues opening and a sort of growing scene. What does that mean for you, and how much a part of it are you of it?
Yeah, I mean, with our help from Arts Council England to bring Sound City to Ipswich and also help fund various projects that have run here, like Smokehouse Live and our Independent Venue Week programs. It's been, a real journey that we hope that, is literally just the start. This is the first space, and then we can look at other spaces. Like we have debuted the St Stephen's Church and the Baths for Sound City. Mm-hmm. So we are now putting on a programme at the Baths from Independent Venue Week 2022 with field music and other bands coming. So that's the idea, is like we need to, in this particular town, we used to going to other towns and to go and see live music. We will travel for hours to go and see bands. But what we need to do is slowly over time build a culture that if you're in Norwich, Cambridge, Colchester, you can come to Ipswich and we will get you out of those places to come see some quality music in really quality venues, venues that really invest in not just their workforce and infrastructure, but the PA systems, mics, monitors, everything like that to create the best customer experience possible.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, Joe.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
We're going to hold an in conversation shortly. Just before we do that, not everybody was able to get here today. A number of our partners that we'll be working with across the different sectors that we're offering activity. So we've got a very short show reel just to share with you on the screen now from some of our partners based all around the country and their involvement in Yes We Can. So just watch this and then we'll be right back.
My name's Jenna Mack and I'm a child and educational psychologist. That means I work with children, parents, families and educators to apply psychology to promote development and improve well-being. One of the best ways to work is to connect with parents in the community and be a kind of helping hand or a source of advice during what can be quite tricky times. I really love the idea of partnering with Yes We Can to help make connections between families and venues to increase that sense of a community network, which is so important when you have young children. I'm really looking forward to starting this with some talks about how music can become play a vital role in family life. It feels like a really good way to bring families and venues together.
Hello, my name is Kit Bailey and I am the interim head of programmes at Drake Music. We're a national arts charity working across the UK with our head office in London, but lots of us are based in equally great cities such as Bristol, Sheffield and Manchester. We are a national portfolio organisation for Arts Council England and are also funded through Youth Music and PRS, amongst others. We've been pioneering the use of accessible music technology for over 20 years to break down disabling barriers to making music. Everyone can fulfil their creative and musical potential given the right opportunities, and accessible music venues are a massive part of that. It's great to be involved in Yes We Can's campaign to open up the world of music to all artists and audiences alike, and we're really excited to discover some new music ourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Tony Herrera and I run Come Play With Me. We're a small not-for-profit based out of Leeds in West Yorkshire. We started off life as a record label and we're also a development organisation, a promoter, we run a magazine and we do a series of workshops to support people into careers in music in and around Leeds and West Yorkshire. Sorry we can't be with you today. We're really excited though to be working with Yes We Can on this project. So a lot of the work we do focuses specifically on those that don't have the same opportunities, a lot of disadvantaged or underrepresented groups within music. So specifically LGBTQ individuals, people of gender minorities, women, creators of colour and those of lower socioeconomic backgrounds. We've done a bunch of stuff in the past with IVW, often in association with our Women in Music and Marginalised Genders in Music events. And we can't wait to be working on this because it gives a chance to get a lot of the artists that we work with to a wider audience and just develop their audiences and develop their fan bases. Really excited to be with you all. Thank you.
Hi folks, I'm JJ from the Warren in Hull. We're a youth project supporting young people to essentially become their best selves. It's great to be able to have a chance to say some positive things about Yes We Can because it is a hugely positive endeavour. We've been part of the VEN project, which is one of Yes We Can's projects, which brings young people from around the country together to make music, to create things and to have a chance to meet people they wouldn't ordinarily be able to meet because they can't afford to go anywhere, and to come together and really do something incredibly positive, give them new ideas, make them think differently about creating music, share things and perform together. It's been an amazingly positive, hugely just creative endeavor. It's the energy it generates is fantastic and we're really excited about the prospects for the future for Yes We Can as a network bringing creatives together in their communities, in their creative communities around the country to do things that probably weren't possible before. So really looking forward to seeing what's going to come in the future and good luck with it all.
Hi, my name's Stuart Baxter. I run a company called Hinterland Creative based in Hull. It's a project management company, artist representation, artist development in the creative industries and music industry in my area. I used to work at the Warren Young People's Project where I was the arts development manager. And a few years ago, we worked in collaboration with Independent Venue Week to put on some music industry workshops in Hull around Independent Venue Week to engage young people who are interested in the music industry roles outside of being an artist. As part of that, we put on workshops where we invited regional professionals to come and talk about what they do in terms of roadieing, stage management, tour management, backline tech, lighting engineers. And we put on a series of workshops in the Warren and engaged about 30 young people who all came down and had a really, really positive experience meeting these people in these roles and learning that you can get into this industry by simply working hard and proving yourself. And it doesn't all rely on academic experience, which was amazing. Out of the back of that, we got an opportunity from the YOU CIC IT tour manager who was doing a show in Manchester Arena. And he was that impressed with the young people that he invited them to the show and said, do you want to come and see how things are done in real life? So Independent Venue Week provided the opportunity to hire a coach and take the young people to Manchester, where we met all of the people in the different roles around the arena, countless roles from lighting to visuals to sound to catering, media, artist liaison, venue staff. And it really opened their eyes to all of the possibilities of all the different roles within the music industry outside of Soundcheck and being an artist. And on the back of that, they had such a great experience. Many of those young people went on to really work hard and push themselves into that career. Some of those young people became lighting engineers professionally, became stage managers, sound techs, roadies, backline techs, and are still working in that industry now, earning good money in a good career on the back of that project. And they said it was such a great opportunity and it massively inspired them. And without that opportunity, they wouldn't have done that. So to have a project like Yes We Can that has learned from that experience and taken that opportunity and seen how we can break down barriers and create opportunities together, to turn that into a project such as Yes We Can, and launch that as a new thing is an amazing thing. And I think it's something that we all need to support and something that we really need to happen going forward, because these barriers need removing and these opportunities need creating, because we're not all fortunate enough to be able to afford to volunteer and do internships. And we're not all living in areas where there's an industry that we can easily tap into. So for young people in remote areas such as Hull, it's really important that we create these opportunities and we launch projects such as Yes We Can to build on those experiences and those pilot projects and turn them into really exciting, huge projects that hopefully will continue for a long time.
Can I invite to the stage now, please, Jane, Nadine, Joe, and Catherine, please. I think it was quite telling that Stuart Baxter did his video for us from the back of a van, because he's actually on tour at the moment, never stops.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. How's it going? I am also welcome all to the Yes We Can launch. And I am Nadine Ahmed, or sometimes known as Nadine Artois. I'm a DJ, cultural consultant, and a creative producer. I work mainly within queer and trans, black and brown nightlife, and I run a party called Pussy Palace. And thank you all to our guests for being here. What we're going to do is just introduce everyone, and then we're going to talk to everyone individually about the work that we do, and then maybe if we have time, open up for questions. Have you already mentioned about Dom? No. Oh, just wanted to say that Dom Fraser from the Boiler Room in Guildford couldn't make it today, unfortunately, but please check out the work that he and the Boiler Room do. Not only is it an award-winning venue, they do a lot of work and care to nurture new creative talent, so check them out. And so we have, first of all, Joe Hastings from Help Musicians.
Hello.
It's an independent charity for professional musicians, giving people the support they need from every aspects of their career, from starting out to all the way to retirement. And also a shout out to you, because I got earplugs through Help Musicians for a fraction of the cost and a really great ear exam. So yeah, thanks to Help Musicians for that. And we've also got Catherine Buller, who is a producer at Britain Pears Arts, pioneering music, arts and heritage charity on the Suffolk coast. Hey, how's it going? And then we have Jane DeBall, which is the co-chair of Attitude is Everything, a disability-led charity that's been going for 20 years, with 20 years of experience supporting organisation becoming more accessible for deaf and disabled people. Hi, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
Okay, amazing. Right, so let's jump in with you. So let me just pull my questions up. Sorry, everyone, bear with me. Actually, let's start with you. Okay, cool. Sorry, everyone. Give me a minute. So let's start with you, Jane, actually. So can you offer some background on Attitude is Everything's work and what the charity does, its impact of the work for the deaf and disabled audiences and its artists?
Yes, I certainly can. So I'm the co-chair. My name is Jane Dybel. I'm the co-chair of Prima Donna. Sorry, that was this.
And I was read about that as well. That's amazing
that
work
was
you
the
do there.
talk I did earlier on today. I was the chair of Prima Donna. Here today, I'm the co-chair of Attitude is Everything, a charity, as you said, for deaf and disabled people and neurodivergent people. So the first thing I have to do is to acknowledge my privilege. I do not identify as any of those things. But I have been I've worked in the music industry all of my adult life. I've worked at big organisations, I've worked internationally, and I have never worked with a visibly deaf and disabled person. So I think there is a real issue of access and access to opportunity, and what Attitude is Everything does is it does training and consultancy and practical guidance for anyone who would like to attend a live music event. So it targets audience members, anyone who would like the opportunity to perform at a live event, so it targets artists, anyone who would like to work in the events industry, so it targets employees, and anybody who would like to promote an event which supports access to deaf, disabled, neurodivergent people. So it has projects across a number of, it runs multiple projects, multiple training opportunities, and there are a whole pile of materials available on on our website to really try and make sure that access is available to everyone in this fabulous industry that many of us have really enjoyed working in.
Amazing, thank you. And how has the pandemic affected that work?
Well, I don't think we can pretend it's been easy. So there have been, like everybody, we've had to adapt to working from home. But a lot of the work that the charity does is focused on live events, and we know that that has been a sector that has really badly suffered during the pandemic. So this has meant that a lot of the project work that we were doing had to be retuned, and so that it had slightly different targets. And we had to change some of the work that we're doing with venues, which rely on visits to venues, so that we can try and do things a bit more virtually.
Right.
But I think it also, I mean, every threat presents an opportunity, and I think it also provides an opportunity for us to work with venues as they reopen, to make sure that they're reopening with a view to improving access wherever they possibly can, and really encouraging deaf, disabled, neurodivergent artists and audiences to go back to live events.
Amazing. And something that I noticed about going about lockdown and the pandemic is something that we'd been asking ourselves is like, how do we make things more accessible? And then one of the things was so obvious, because it was like, oh, we could do things on Zoom, of course accessible for those who have Wi-Fi, a laptop, and live in a safe enough environment to be able to use it. So did you notice that as well, like, and it's not something that you realized like before, or was that just news to me?
I think that's something that was very much at the front of our minds, really, and particularly, again, for me, I have the benefit of coming to things like this to talk about the work of Attitude is Everything, but the team that work there are incredibly tuned in to issues that affect deaf and disabled neurodivergent people. So we would have, what we realised, for example, is that if meetings are held on one social platform, if you need subtitles, which is the best one?
Yeah.
Some of the subtitles are absolutely appalling.
My God, so terrible.
And so it's those kind of things that do become quite apparent as you start to go down that road.
And what would you say is the best platform for it now?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I think we prefer Zoom. I think
I
think we went from Microsoft Teams to Zoom.
I know. We keep bouncing around every time there's like a new one come up. There's I just literally forgotten the name of it, but there's this one. It looks great. It's quite interactive, like because you've got like a little character that you can go around and you can like go to buy like the water cooler and I guess pretend that you're in an office or like an event or something that makes it more, I guess, like enjoyable. But at the same time, it's missing all of these features. So I don't want Zoom to be like the one that's the best, you know. But I end up having to go back with it because it is the most accessible, has the best sound and the best subtitles. So yeah. And Attitude is Everything's charter has resulted in more than 200 venues and festivals making a commitment in improving their access provision. But you're also working increasingly with smaller indie venues. What innovative and impactful things are those cash-strapped venues doing? And is there any simple and affordable things that all venues could be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that small businesses tend to be very creative in their thinking, and so we work with smaller venues to encourage that kind of creative thinking. So something quite straightforward and very easy to do is to film the entrance to your venue, and just to do a quick video of what it looks like, so that people can spot it quickly, so that they know which way to go, so they can see how many steps there are. People have all degrees of different access needs, and so it's good for them to be able to see for themselves what the route is into the venue and to decide for themselves whether or not they can cope with that. And so that's one thing that's really easy to do. And then another thing that we're trying to encourage, we're just starting to do a program around it, is just ask. So if you are a artist who has access needs, and I mean, if you're a promoter and you're booking acts, you usually ask them what equipment they're going to need. You don't always ask them what their access requirements are. But a survey that Attitude is Everything did showed that 70% of deaf and disabled artists who get booked to appear at shows are anxious about asking and proactively giving their access requirements. So what would really help would be if people were asked automatically, and that if small venues had an addition to their form that they send to artists that they've booked to play, just to say, what are your access needs? Do you have any? That will really encourage deaf, disabled, neurodivergent artists to appear.
Agreed. Thank you so much. And I know that there's like legal obligations that venues have to meet in terms of accessibility, but what do you think that the commercial and cultural benefits are?
It's a shame in some ways to have to answer that question, really. I think, well, I've been a promoter myself. I continue to promote events, and as far as I'm concerned, the more people that are buying tickets, the more likely it is that I can continue to put on events. So, I mean, the commercial benefits have to be plain to see. The cultural benefits, to me, are wide-ranging. Why cut out an entire section of the population if you're a cultural, enthusiast? I mean, I'm addicted to culture. I have a serious culture problem. I don't think that's a problem. Any kind of culture. I will literally go and see anything, and that's what I think it makes my life enjoyable, and being able to talk about it with other people. Yeah. Whether it's to say, that was amazing, or can you believe that somebody put on that?
Fantastic.
It's one of life's pleasures as far as I'm concerned.
But I mean, I totally get you about like that question as well, because like for some people, a lot of people still, it's like they don't see deaf, disabled and neurodivergent people as people. So the amount of times that I've been like, because I do some like cultural consultancy, to be consulting, and the only way to convince people that to make more access requirements for these people to be able to enjoy it is not from because it's the right thing to do, is more like, well, you could sell more tickets, so and that's usually the thing that could win it over. But yeah, it's such a shame that that's how people see things. But on to the next question is, Attitude is Everything has partnered with Independent Venue Week for a number of years, and your first activities with Yes We Can will involve some online sessions aimed at educating promoters about the needs of disabled audiences and artists. Just Ask, that you just talked about. Oh, well, you can tell us a little bit more about that. Sorry, guys. Already answered. So what do you see as the potential benefits of a nationwide programme like Yes We Can, and links together with so many different educational, charity and advocacy partners?
Well, the partnership between Attitude and Everything and Yes We Can is what I should say is the partnership between Attitude is Everything and independent live venues is really important, and the work that is done to promote deaf and disabled access needs through organisations like Can You Kick It is it just really helps spread the message and helps spread the word. Anything that we can do to partner with organisations to really promote, these issues, we're going to do it, and we're really appreciative of organisations that partner with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your time. And hey Catherine, we're going to jump onto you now. Hey, so
Hi.
do you want to talk a little bit more about your work and the ethos behind Britain Peach Arts?
Yeah, sure. It's worth saying that I'm a last minute addition to this conversation, so sorry if I'm not as slick in my kind of description. So I'm a producer at Britain Peers Arts. We are a music and heritage and arts charity that's responsible for two venues, Snake Maltings and the Red House, both of which founded by Benjamin Britten and where Benjamin Britten lived. And his ethos was that music should be useful to people. And that's what we try and embed in everything that we do. Think about how that music can be useful to enrich people's lives. So in the community programme, that kind of manifests itself in lots of different ways, in lots of the different work that we do with local communities.
And who is Mr. Britten?
So Benjamin Britten, he was a composer, classical composer,
Okay, cool.
wrote operas and lots of pieces of music.
Amazing. And how important is it for your organisation to be plugged into the local community?
Yeah, it's really, really important. So we are a venue. We are based in the Suffolk region. Lots of our work happens actually in Ipswich and Lowestoft as well. So we're part of we're part of kind of Suffolk's life, which is exciting, and we're constantly kind of trying to think of how we as an organisation can best serve that community as an organisation with such privilege that we have our spaces and the area of beauty that we're in, bringing people to the site so they can benefit from it, and kind of just helping to spread that as far and wide as we can, really.
Amazing. And can you tell us a little bit more about Snap Maltings and the Red House, and what goes into that in terms of like looking after it as like a heritage site, but also using it as a cultural hub?
Yeah. So the Britain Peers Arts is actually a newly found organisation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a merger between Snake Maltings and the Red House, which happened I think just after lockdown last year, so not the best timing. But Snake Maltings is a music venue and kind of site with shops and bars and cafes and things like that, and is kind of managed by a whole team of people. Lots of kind of concert goers going there, and lots of kind of heritage activities, schools visits, lots of things happening. And at the Red House, it's more kind of focused on heritage. That's where Benjamin Britten lived, and lived with his partner, Peter Peers, and has a whole community programme as well there.
Amazing. That's so cool. I didn't know that. It's queer composer, and still in his house. I definitely would love to come and visit.
Yeah.
And I was like reading up on one of the aspects within your work is working with prison residents, and that is also like really important to some work that I do too. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a really long-standing partnership with the prison that is most local to Snake Maltings, which is Warren Hill Prison. They are a really forward-thinking establishment, who have around 250 men who are there as residents. And we've worked there for over 20 years, so it's quite a long-standing partnership. We do lots of projects with the residents, music projects, which culminate with recordings and performances and sharing moments with their families and with other visitors. And at the moment, we're working on a project post-COVID. We're working really hard to kind of rebuild lots of the relationships across all of our programmes, really, as I know lots of people are. But in the prison in particular, there's been kind of huge changeovers in staff, huge changeover in the kind of prison community as well. So at the moment we're working on a recording project, which is going to culminate in February next year.
What type of recording project?
So we're working towards, with about 15 of the residents, working towards them recording and writing their own music, which is going to be hopefully submitted to the Kersler Awards in April next year, which is exciting. Yeah,
definitely be looking out for that. And something else that I noticed on your website as well, and I really loved it, and it said that your aim is to be useful to people and for them to realise their potential. And I wanted to ask, like, what ways do you make yourself useful to people, and how do you make them realise their potential?
Yeah, so I think lots of that is that a lot of what we do is trying to look at our and work with our local community first and foremost, and help them guide a lot of what we do in our programme, particularly in our work with young people, work with Youth Voice and trying to kind of have them involved right from the beginning. Lots of what we do in the community team is also around people who might not necessarily have access to the arts, people who might not necessarily consider themselves as musicians, but through our work we hope that they'll be able to feel the benefits and the power that we all know you can get from music. So
amazing. I love that. And what other types of programming do you have as well?
So as in community or
community, actually both. That's I want to find out a lot, so please tell us as much as you can.
So in the music programme where the community team sits, we do work with artists who come on residencies at Snake Maltings. We work with young musicians, really talented young musicians, who go to local schools, and we also have a performance programme, which is what is in our concert halls and our studio spaces, and in the community team we work with from early years all the way through to older adults. Lots of work in Ipswich and Lowestoft as well as around the Snake Maltings area on the East Suffolk.
Amazing. And how can people support the work that you're doing?
I think it's about having that conversation. I think in terms of where we are, and we're so reliant on amazing partners to make it possible. I think that it's all about that conversation, that kind of reciprocal relationship that happens when you work with amazing partners. So it's all about keeping that going and helping support that way, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Catherine. I really appreciate it. And hi, Joe.
Hello.
Hey, so can we give everybody an overview of why Help Musicians was set up and the charity's work over the past 20 months during the pandemic?
Yes. Well, I'll there'll be an abridged version of why we were set up because it was 100 years old. So it's
really, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
But the charity was set up by a number of very well-known composers initially as a kind of a support structure for musicians who would experience hardship and vulnerabilities, and there was lots of inward investment from composers like Vaughan Williams and other and Elgar and people like that, and it was ostensibly kind of a lifeline for people who weren't able to access support and who weren't able to get the kind of the health interventions that they needed, and in some ways that's largely still the kind of the essence of what we do, but obviously the world has changed a lot since 1921, and it's changed a lot in the last 18 months, 20 months as well. The core structure of the support is to develop new talent, develop emerging musicians, and support people throughout their lives and careers to have healthy careers. And certainly over the last 7 years, we've become much more focused on gathering the insights and resourcing based on what people's needs are in the music community.
Right. Amazing.
Over the last 20 months, we've had to pivot for obvious reasons, and our focus has become much more on making sure that people could survive and making sure that people could manage those early months in particular of the pandemic, and we were able to support 20,000 musicians in those early months, and you know the impact was pretty profound. We were able to support people to just to pay their rent and just to get some food and just to be able to survive. And what happened in those early months of the pandemic was something that was thankfully, but still a growing issue for a minority of people in music, became an issue for the majority of people in music. Yeah. So we went from having good reach to people in the music community. So 3,000-4,000 people we would support every year, and then we had the hearing health scheme, which you mentioned, which is another part of our activity, to reaching 10 times that number of people, which obviously took a significant shift in how we resourced that, and we spent a huge amount of money to do that. But it was money really we see as really well spent, because we now are able to reach everyone, a much larger percentage of the music community, and also obviously it's had a huge impact on our reputation in the industry. Yeah, I'll stop there because there's probably other stuff you're going to ask me. Okay,
cool. But yeah, it was quite shocking to realise how fragile our industry was, for like you said there, you were supporting a number of people a year who, it's quite common, being an artist, to not be able to struggle to pay your rent or struggling to buy food, but then for the whole entire industry, that affecting too. So that's something that I think about all the time, is just that there was all of these running careers, and just and then due to the pandemic, the fragility of it was quite shocking. Still is, actually, because it's we're building ourselves back up, but it could be, especially with everything that's happening right now, it's is it going to be taken away again? So your specific role is to head up Music Minds Matter, a dedicated mental health helpline for those in the music industry. Can you give us some insight to why it was set up and its impacts?
Yeah, actually, I didn't. I was going to go there. Sorry,
I felt it.
Yeah, so Music Minds Matter was set up in 2016 on the back of a significant piece of research that we undertook with Westminster University, which showed high levels. It wasn't a surprise to us, but it showed high levels of musicians and people working in the sector were experiencing anxiety and depression, and there were fairly shocking stats that came back from that research. It was initially a direct response to that was to try and ensure that we had something in place that would allow musicians to get the support they needed. That they were able to do that simply and effectively. So the service ran for 3 years as ostensibly as an EAP structure, where you could call the support line and you were able to access support from trained helpline staff, and then you could also potentially access some therapy, some kind of brief intervention focused therapy. So a number of sessions, up to 6 sessions. Last year, early in the pandemic, and largely due to James, our chief exec's foresight, he understood, and we saw an opportunity in that we were coming to the end of a period of the service running a certain way, to look at the value and benefit of the service, but also to look at how we refresh and ensure that the service delivers for people during a pandemic, and delivers the what they were calling the third and fourth wave of what was happening. So what we're now experiencing, but also to look at the opportunities to grow the service, and to look at the wider needs, and to look at also some potential examples of how we might deliver preventative interventions, and how we might deliver wider support to ensure that people were able to access mental health interventions and support, advice, education, however you want to describe it, in their own in easily accessible ways. So we refreshed the service, and we moved away from a fairly standardized service on the back of, again, we did some focus groups, and moved towards a structure that was much more in line with what we knew people wanted and what people were telling us they wanted, and that meant moving away from the system to a new system which allowed people to immediately talk to a BACP accredited therapist. So when you call Music Minds Matter now, the first person you speak to is a qualified therapist who can give you advice and support, and we call it in the moment support. And that service is open 24/7. And then based on eligibility, you can move through to a pathway which is delivered in partnership with BAPAM, who again, there was so much logic in working with BAPAM because BAPAM have a huge directory of qualified therapists, but also who have specialisms of working with people in this industry, in this sector. And that's very much what people were telling us they wanted. They didn't want to talk to generalized therapists, not to denigrate a therapist who doesn't have experience, but given the specific needs and the quite nuanced needs of this sector, they wanted to talk to therapists who had the right level of experience. And then alongside that, also BAPAM gave us a level of assuredness because of their clinical expertise. We work with BAPAM a lot, and it was just a really obvious way of moving the service on to do something on a different scale. And that's what we've seen. We've seen a 94% increase in people accessing therapy, and we've seen a huge increase in people calling the support line as well. So it's really positive, but it's also a sign of where we are, that people are needing those services more and more.
Yeah, I think about that often.
Yeah.
And it's really, I like the detail of care to be responsive to what your audience was looking for. And I think a lot of the times, especially when it comes to like free therapy and stuff like that, it's just like, okay, here's what there's not a much of like, from what I've seen, a commitment to caring to what those people need. Is like therapy is just enough, but it seems like you're really detailed oriented within that, and also focusing on preventative care as well, so important.
Yeah, and that's been the other area of the other major area of growth. So this year still, because we're still in 2021.
Almost over.
Yeah, almost over. We've been running a range of support groups, and this was on the back of research. Again, we wanted to gather the insights, and people told us that they wanted access to support groups led by experts, and they wanted to be able to talk to people who had similar experiences, to share experiences and learn from experts.
Yeah.
So we were piloting a range of support groups with a range of partners, and where we are now is in a really good position for 2022 in terms of expanding and scaling up those services. We're working a lot with BAPAM on elements of that, and other organisations, to ensure that they're reflective of the insights that we gathered over the last 6 months of kind of piloting services. And then alongside that, we're also in the we're fairly advanced stages of building a mental health digital hub, which will allow people to access video content and again sharing stories, so person centered and person focused stories, and also to listen and engage with a wide range of experts, and also access resources, clinically assured resources as well.
Amazing, I love that. And I guess like we've seen such a change in the last few years with people paying more attention and being more aware and being more empathetic of mental health, but because you're working so deeply within this work and with so much care, like what more would you like to see done by like the wider audience, or wider society rather?
Well, I can only really speak in musical terms. I mean, I used to work
wider
in
society within music.
I think what instead of what I'd like to see, I think what I'm seeing, which is really encouraging, is a really which is a really important step, is just a huge amount of collaboration, but also acknowledging where the expertise is, and acknowledging where how partnership can deliver and support people and make sure that people access what they need. But the thing that really stands out to me as a need, and a growing need, and needs further resourcing, and this is not for one charity to do or for a number of partnerships to deliver, is for this to be something that becomes regional, and for it to be something that's actually accessible to anyone who needs it, and that takes resourcing, but it also takes it takes input from everyone working, and every organisation working in this sector. So I'd like to see the continued growth of what's happening already. And obviously, I've got a vested interest in it because we're seeing the benefits of delivering, and we want to see more of it. And that's why it's great working with, we're talking to Sybil about what we're planning, and talking to other organisations who are really interested in how this might be relevant and appropriate, because we have a certain demographic that we reach, and beyond that, we need partners, and we want to work with other organisations who've got expertise to deliver what we, the services that are needed.
Amazing, thank you so much. And how important do you see this partnership with Yes We Can in terms of outreach and connecting with music communities like across the UK?
Yeah, sorry, I started answering that question, didn't I? I remember. I think maybe it's because you told me you were going to ask me it. I think it's really important. I think venues and venue staff and people who support venues, the lifeblood of these venues, organisations and these kind of structures allow for much greater integration, and to ensure that what's available in certain areas of the country is also available in other areas. And the lifeblood of venues in other areas of the UK, because I think historically we probably have been a little bit southeast focused and southeast centric, but the lifeblood of the music community is not something that's based in London. It's based throughout the UK, and what people are telling us in the research we're doing is that they want access to those services in their local communities. So having building these relationships and building these partnerships is key to reaching people and giving people the support that they need.
Okay, thank you. And can you talk us through some of the specific programs that you're working on, like tonic music and focal sessions?
Yeah, so we're working with an organisation called Tonic Rider, who've been and we've been piloting a series of peer support groups. So the structure of those support groups is that they're not themed; they're open conversations, and it's for anyone to come and share anything that they're finding difficult, any of their experiences, in a safe environment. The sessions are facilitated by accredited therapists. They've been really successful. We've had really good feedback and high levels of continuing engagement. And those sessions are run over. The peer support groups are run over 6 sessions, so people attend for a series of them. And the idea is that through the series of sessions, people learn through engaging with other people in the room, and they build their own kind of ability to sort of manage and guide and self-care. So that's the work we're doing with Tonic Rider, and the idea next year is what we've been doing as a pilot and predominantly online. Is something that, well, hopefully, if we're allowed, will become something that we expand to be delivered in person where it's appropriate, but throughout the UK. So it's not just something that's done, online, and something that kind of is largely focused on certain areas of the country.
Amazing. And with the peer support and all the other work that you do, what ways can people get involved in that or support help musicians in any way?
Well, it depends what you want to do, I guess. So, I mean, I think in terms of the peer support groups, anyone who works in music can access those peer support groups. So, if even if you're just intrigued by it, then you can get in contact with us or Tonic Rider to find out more information. We're going to be doing lots more promotion of that in the new year, and then we've also started a really exciting program of work with BAPAM, and Claire's here, so on looking at building a series of modules sort of focused on self-care. And they'll be delivered again by experts, but the idea is they're focused on specific themes, common issues that people in this industry experience. But the idea is that they go into a level of detail that people can, and they give people exercises and information that they can continue to engage with, and resources that they can kind of take into their lives and careers, and develop skills. And again, hopefully you'll hear lots more about this over the coming months, because we're going to be promoting a series of these over the next 6 months. And the idea is that, again, this is scaled up and this becomes part of our common activity, and it becomes part of, hopefully, the community's activity, in terms of everyone knowing that it's there and everyone knowing that they can access it as and when they need to.
Amazing. I'll look out for that for sure. Thanks so much, Joe. Okay. And just one other question that I have for all of us is, like, what future outcomes do you want to see from Yes We Can? And that's like immediate and looking towards the future, like 10 years deep. Like, what would you like to see come out of that?
Well, I think it would be great to see venues packed, and it would be great to see venues packed with a very diverse audience, experiencing a very diverse range of culture. So that's what I think I personally would like to see.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds amazing.
Same.
Yeah, I think there's so much that's in the importance of place and people's association and feeling around a venue that they love. And I think that having people access that from such a young age and seeing that journey from early years, from zero all the way through to being, to being older and coming to concerts and venues, I think that's amazing. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, no, that all sounds amazing, and I think also for in terms of our focus on, the crew, the tech, the staff in venues, and the musicians as well who come into venues, just the idea of people being able to have happy and healthy experiences in venues, and for them to enjoy their engagement with each other, as opposed to the potentially being challenges, or it being something that becomes difficult because of resourcing issues, and also because people don't necessarily always know what's there to access and how to best engage with their areas of work.
Yeah, I love all of those answers, and definitely something that I want to see, and definitely something that's totally achievable with, like, Yes We Can. And I think for me it's living in, I'm from Glasgow, and Glasgow and like London itself has like such like rich choices. So to see like multiple venues and going to different cities, smaller cities, villages and towns, well, that can also have like a rich programming that's regular, that feels like really good. And like I can't even imagine all of the amazing outcomes from that, from like years of doing this could achieve if we look at five years from now. And something that I noticed as well is especially like for like the community that I serve, is because most of queer and trans, black and brown people, one of their only jobs is nightlife, and to have like a choice on different forms of like nightlife, things that are happening during the day, like my community is not really supported enough in the daytime, so that's why a lot of like issues actually like bleed out into the dance floor. So to see more cultural things happen in the day, and making use of those venues being open in the daytime, and one of the focus groups being LGBTQ+, I'm really looking forward to my community feeling more like safer in that aspect in the daytime. So yeah, and I think, have we got time to open up for questions?
Have we got any questions? We've got we'll go ahead.
Hi.
A really quick one.
Yeah, go on.
I'm absolutely excited by the prospect of sort of the democracy of creative spaces in all areas across the country is exciting, and especially the daytime programming, because I work with a lot of groups here, mental health projects, some of them have been in this space, and I think the idea of many people are anxious about the evening economy as well, so I'm really encouraged by that. From the perspective of Yes We Can, is it, as well as it being an initiative about using the spaces, is it kind of a funding opportunity as well? So groups who think, I want to run an event in the daytime, is it also an opportunity for them to apply to get some small support to do events? Or?
Not particularly funding directly, but we certainly, we're very grateful to Arts Council England for funding this initial pilot, as Adrian sort of identified it as, and we've got funding until the end of May. We've got a set programme of activity that we need to deliver. Obviously, because we got our grant in September, so there's been a lot of development work. So a lot of the activity has already been programmed in. We've still got some capacity to program some more in, but I think because this is a new venture for us, and because working in funding cycles from Arts Council gives you a set amount of time, we're very keen, and we're working, we've got new people in the team now to help us look beyond that, so that we don't have to wait until that project cycle ends. We're starting having conversation, hopefully with other funders, with trusts and foundations, with commercial partners, the music industry and other groups, about how we can continue that work. So we've got a series of programs happening, which is very easy for us to identify and take to other funders and say, we'd like to do more of this. I think what's really crucial for us is not coming up with these ideas and putting them out into the community and saying, we've done this for you, is turning to the community and say, what is it that you would like? What can we do for you? How can we work together and deliver something that means something for you? So it's a very gradual process. It's very sort of collaborative, and that takes time. But certainly, if people would like to talk to us about activity they'd like to do, then it's very easy to find us, to get in touch, and we can start those conversations now.
Exciting. Anyone else got any questions? No? Are we all good? Yeah, okay. Well, wanted to say thank you so much to our guests, and also to Sybil, to Yes We Can, to Independent Music Week, to Arts Council, to all of you for coming. And yeah, thanks so much. We're going to stick around for like 5 minutes if anyone thinks of any questions, or we're too shy to answer and talk in front of everyone, then we'll hang out for a little bit.
And I'd just like to thank Nadine. There's been some travel problems today, so thank you for actually
You're
making
so
up here.
welcome.
I'm very grateful to Joe, to Catherine, and to Jane, and to everybody else in the room, and to Arts Council for their support. And we're going to go and have a few drinks at the bar now. Everybody's got their masks on, so we'll be nice and safe. But again, thank you to everybody for being here today. Thank you to Joe and Marcus from the Smokehouse and Out Loud Music, and to the Can You Kick It team. I'd really like to thank Charlie, Kiri, Erin, Joe, and to Jem as well, and to Lucy for getting to this point, to be able to finally announce the plans today. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you soon.
Woo.
Thank you.